Hey guys, thanks for joining us today. You got myself and Alex. We're going to be talking over the main differences on B2B and B2C. Now, there are a lot of similarities that are used in the same sort of like platform, but I think people sometimes get mistaken or overcomplicate it. We're going to break down a little bit more of the simplicity of how you can utilize them both as a marketing methods, but how there are individuals in it. One of the biggest things I think that we see is that although there is a brand element with B2B, I think you can be a little bit more personal. You're trying to attract a different criteria within B2C. How much like branding do you reckon you put into on B2B, and what detail level do you go into it?
So it really depends. So a lot of the branding elements. So let's just look at the normal B2B sort of companies. They're usually boring. Very boring companies. So if you can put a little bit of personal brand into it, that will then make you stand out in the crowd. But yeah, as a rule of thumb, you look at from the differentiate B2B and B2C. B2C, you have to push a brand, you have to build that. Whereas B2B, it's not so much that. It's more so just finding the right people, having the right product.
Well, I think if you don't have a good brand though in B2B, then you're not going to have a level of establishment. You're not going to be eye-catching as much as there may be less competitiveness. Within B2B, you're probably competing within a 1 in 100 or something like that. In B2B, you may be only 1 in 10, but you still have to have a level of professionalism that then is eye-catching. If it was as easy as just sending an email and stuff like that with no official email, with no official branding, no like logo or anything like that, then I think everyone would do it. And I think many people do try to do it without a brand portfolio.
100%.
But I think the breakdown of the criteria is different.
Yeah, so the branding for B2B is more for credibility. And as you said there, some people, sending an email from a Gmail or an Outlook, and you're just not going to get anywhere because you just don't look credible. No one believes who you are, what you're doing. Now, there's obviously different campaigns. So you could be middleman or you can have your own brand or own business. More credibility will be more... or affect more if you're trying to start your own business, because if you're piggybacking off a company already, they've already got a brand you can hide behind, so it's different. But yeah, 100% agree. The more so where B2B and B2C is similar is the fact that you need people to trust who you are.
I think trust is the largest, and probably trust is the hardest element. It can be. Look, I'm not saying it's an easy process, but it is an easier process to have a product. You can source a product, you can generate emails, you can scrape emails and stuff like that. Now it's a long-winded process, and there's ways that within Change, obviously, we've created it a lot easier. But the one thing that we try and get across to members, and the one thing that we somewhat have created an axe for and fine-tuned it is creating the element of trust, how to get credibility within the branding. And I think it's the one thing that people forget about though the most.
Yeah, and I'd probably say that the one main thing that's going to build the trust and credibility is sales. So for example, if you've got a handful of sales from social media and the website converted, and you've got actual reviews, well, you can then use that to then push to get more sales. Now that is probably the most powerful thing. Same with the B2B. If you've got then, you can introduce other companies who you've already done business with. Well, that's just going to put you, to the top if you're competing with other people with no sales. So yeah, it's absolute key.
But I think there's also potentially, and one thing that I noticed, and you might be able to elaborate more, is that within a B2C market, you can be a little bit more expressive with the color palettes, because you don't have that level of professionalism. I think there's probably a wider range of expression and options within a B2C, because you're not looking for business makers. A lot of business makers within B2B can be educated in a traditional sense, and they look for professionalism, and they look for a sense of right is right, wrong is wrong. There's one dimension a lot of times, whereas in B2C you have such a wide element, and I think it plays a large part in that branding, that element of trust. But I think also the main thing that people forget about branding isn't just what visually you see; it's the text that you're using,
tone of voice. There's loads. There's so many different elements here. But to go back to your point, you're right. So let's just say a key decision maker at a big corporate company. Well, usually they've been in a company or they've been doing that job for, I don't know, let's just say for this 10 years. Okay. 9 times out of 10, they would have had to go through uni to be where they were. Mm-hmm. Well, if you do a business degree in uni, they're going to tell you, well, for branding, you need to have these certain colors to make sure that it aligns with your not campaign, but what you're selling. And especially for B2C, you can go against all that. You can trial with different colors. You can trial with different advertising methods and everything like that. B2B, the companies are trying to be more disruptive now, are going against that as well. And I just think that's such an old school way of looking at things in terms of the color schemes and how a brand should be reflective. But, and a big but, you've got to play to your audience, haven't you? So if you're trying to then target them sort of people, then you've got to then try and fit in as well.
Definitely, yeah. And I think you're quite limited in the touch points on B2B. So that may be why you're not as expressive. In B2C, obviously, every touch point you've got you've got the full website to go through, and like you're constantly holding your customers' hands.
Yeah.
So there is more touch points. So you're allowed to be a little bit more expressiff in that, because you can show it a little bit more. But I think a difference as well is that you would mainly. B2B is probably one of the only original traditional marketing methods that is used today that is successful. I don't think we discussed it earlier. I don't think in terms of e-commerce you would ever go out flyering, you wouldn't ever go out billboarding, you wouldn't ever go out. Do you know what I mean? You wouldn't have a pop-up stand in Asda and stuff like that. That B2B, where the way that you've created it and the way you developed it within the change system, is probably one of the only, I'd say. It's not traditional because you've put your own spin on it, and you've managed to edit it to be successful. Because I think if it was traditional cold emails and stuff like that it probably wouldn't be successful. But it is probably still the origins of your foundation is probably the only one that is traditional in traditional sense that can be moved across into e-commerce.
Yeah,
and I think that's where you've managed to have success from it. Because if you were to say B2B to anyone who isn't aware of it within change, they would probably say, oh, you're in the Stone Ages and stuff like that. Because people aren't knowledgeable on the twist or the altercations that you've done within B2B.
Yeah, and from a strictly sort of the companies who've gone from B2C to B2B, normally they've generated millions from where they're at first before they've then tried to get in Sainsbury's or out over the country or whatever. Like Huel, I always use Huel as an example. They started off with a Shopify store running social media advertising to that store, got to a point where they've got the credibility, they've got all the reviews, they've got millions and millions in turnover. Then they want to do the takeover and be in the high street stores around the country and now Europe and probably the world.
Yeah.
But you don't have to get to that point to explore B2B. So that's what we're trying to sort of change the narrative of, you don't have to be a global £1 million company to get to that point. You can just enter at that level.
I think that narrative's definitely changing with the success that you've seen.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I've been saying it a lot recently when people ask for proof all the time. And I always say, we can give you one example, we can give 2 examples, like 4, 5, 6, 7. People can say that once is a fluke.
Yeah.
Twice we're getting lucky. But like we're weekly giving you examples of how B2C, how B2B are performing successful. And like I say, we've created somewhat of a pathway where, look, 100% you need to put the work rate in and stuff like that. We're not going to hold your hands. And there is a lot of work. There's more not groundwork. I'd probably say there's more physical labour, if you call it physical labour, in B2B than what is in B2C. B2C can be a little bit automated. You can set up. B2C is data analytical. I'd always say you have to be you can be a point of analytical person to look into the data more than a physical worker. Whereas sometimes the B2B can be emails. Grafting, scraping emails, looking into emails, and obviously
time-consuming bits, really.
It definitely can be, yeah. But the rewards that from one deal on B2B compared to B2C, obviously there are differences. Now, both of them benefit, and both of them are going to be successful. It just depends on it can take a little bit of a longer period in B2B to get your first deal,
100%.
whereas you can start to churn the sales within the first week of B2C.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the one thing we've done is put in stepping stones to get you on that right path. And if you follow it, it's all a process. And we say it all the time, trust the process and be consistent with what we show, tell, do. And you will get results eventually, whether it's this product or the next one. Because look, we can never guarantee that your individual products. We can only put in enough.
I wish every product works.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many different. Not narratives. There's so many different components that go into getting a sale.
Could even be right time, right place. How can you even test that sometimes?
I mean, you've probably seen it yourself where someone may have come, but you might have got to know. You might have moved on to a new product, and then the previous 6 months later, some person might come down. The Debenhams are doing it with a couple of members at the moment, where they've gone, all right, it's not the right time, but then actually 6 months time they've gone, right, yeah, we need you now.
Yeah,
and you've gone on. Like I said, B2B seems to be because. B2B, one of the main differences is B2B is you're going out and achieving sales, whereas B2C, obviously, people are coming to you. And you do have to have an element of the right time, right place, and you do have to be present. You can't just send one email and be successful, whereas potentially you can put one ad out and you can be successful in B2C.
100%. And the one thing that's only going to help both B2B and B2C is being proactive. So you can be proactive in both campaigns. So 100%. From a B2B and B2C, you can explore other social media channels, so they complement each other as well. B2B, you can still find leads on Facebook. B2C, you can still sell to people on LinkedIn. They complement each other. You can be proactive. You can do Facebook groups for both. You can do LinkedIn groups for both. You can still be that expert within that field and make sales. What's your opinion on being proactive? Like, any tips that you would give?
I think one of the biggest frustrations is that people are narrow-minded. And I don't mean that in terms of they're not open to change and they're not open to that. I think that they sometimes don't broaden their horizon to understand the success that they can have within both markets. I think they're quite focused and look, sometimes it can be overwhelming when you're looking into B2B and B2C and stuff like that. But B2B and B2C, that email can be converted quite easily from a sensible email to a business email to like a consumer email. All you need to do is change it slightly. You don't even need to change it. You can use ChatGPT, something like that, just to ask for a business sense to a non-business sense and stuff like that. So it is quite easy. But I think if you... I don't know, it'd be interesting to get your opinion. If you were doing B2B and B2C, would you create two different Instagram profiles?
No, so I would just, depending on what the product is, I would use different social media platforms and almost have different stories or different angles from them. So Instagram, it could be, say, for example, it's a product that you're pushing, all nice looking product imagery. And then on TikTok, I would probably do behind the scenes and unboxing and more sort of the creative side that they can see. So funny enough, I've seen a good, and you wouldn't think TikTok would be good for B2B, it's just a dancing app, as people say. But no, it's really good for 100%. It's really good for B2C, and it's starting to come across that businesses are getting behind B2B now. And I've seen selling nitrile gloves, and they literally getting a box of gloves, getting it out, ripping it, pulling it, making sure how strong it is. And
I've seen a lot of mechanics and stuff like that.
Exactly, that's it. There were black ones I've seen. There were mechanical gloves, and the comments underneath that were, "Oh, I need to pass this on to this person because this looks really good." So I would, and Facebook once again, I would use that to be actually reaching out to groups.
I think there's like you mentioned there. I think there's a purpose for every platform, and every platform has a reason. Collectively, you can use them. Like you mentioned, LinkedIn, X, formerly known as Twitter, are probably formerly your more formal based platforms. They're probably going to be your B2B,
more lead generation based.
It's what you present on them platforms. You can be strategic and use them all, and I think the more we always say, the more free platforms that you're on, the better you're going to get the results. The more present you can be in the moment, the more presented you can be across these platforms, the more trust you're going to have. No matter what you're doing in life, if it's B2B, B2C, even anything beyond the business as well, if you don't have trust, you're not going to have sales.
Just to follow up on that trust, if you are on as many social media platforms as possible, and even if you post once a day on one of the platforms, at times by all of them, on Google, if you then search for your name, it should come up with Instagram / your business, LinkedIn / your X and that just as a credibility standpoint. If someone then comes across your product, they get hit with an ad as an example or an email, they're going to go, "Oh, what's this?" They're going to Google you a lot of the time, and then they'll see all your different social media platforms, and then potentially your website, and then if you have got SEO or ads running, you're going to see you. So it's just touch points and also just make it look credible, like we said before.
No, 100%. Like I said, credibility is everything in B2B and B2C, and it's the way that you present it. Like you mentioned there, I think using them both platforms, if you are looking to gain success, there's definitely success to be used within both of the methods. And I don't think there's only small alterations and small edits that you would need to require to go from B2B to B2C. I don't think there's a mass one, and I think that's what we're trying to push to people and stuff like that, using both services, both opportunities to grow the business. And I think they both work hand in hand. The more emails 100%. You send, the more people will become aware of it. You may send a B2B email out, and that person might go, yeah, it's not right for the company, but I'll buy it.
I might buy it. I like it. Yeah.
So it works that way as well. Both of them work hand in hand.
And you never know who they know as well. So especially with buyers, they might go, yeah, it's not necessarily right for us at Sainsbury's, as an example. However, I used to work at Aldi, and this would be perfect. I still know the owner or the director or the managing director, whoever it may be. Here's his email. Try that. So that happens quite a lot as well. And one more point I like to do, doesn't matter if it's B2C or B2B, is ask people what their opinion is of your product. Rather than say, do you want to buy this? Or just say, look, I'm thinking about doing this. You may have already started it. What's your opinion? If they like it, they will go, oh, that's really good. Let me know when it's up and running. That's another very good thing that I'm pushing at the moment. That really get me leads.
Building that hype and stuff like that really works a lot. Like
waiting lists
and stuff like that. It gives a sense of like exclusivity,
100%.
And I think it also allows you to plan a little bit more on what is to come.
Yeah.
So that gives you the best options.
Well, look at Glastonbury. So from a B2C point of view, they probably do one of the best waiting list examples possible. You don't even know who's playing.
Oh yeah.
You have to join the waiting list. 700,000 people join the waiting list to then go into 100,000 tickets.
It's mental.
You have to then wait. You have to do a virtual queue. You have to sign up for it months in advance, and then all of a sudden you've got 5 minutes, and then that waiting list goes, boom, right, you've got your opportunity, which you panic because you don't think you're going to get it, and all of a sudden they sold 100,000 tickets within an hour, all because the waiting list is so big, and they've obviously built that credibility and that urgency of they built the product up first.
Definitely, yeah.
So that's something that you could take away from a B2C point of view is, well, you can build the product, you can still have an amazing product and run ads to it.
Build it and they'll come.
And they will come. That's it.
Should we look gazingly out to the water and just end it there?
Thank you.
Thank you.